Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the European Crossover webinar. And we have Italian retail sales coming out momentarily. We did get French import-export prices come out about an hour and 15 minutes ago, and German industrial production came in down 1%. Now, that was about a couple hours ago. Coming up at the top of this next hour, we will have German zoo numbers. They're looking for negative 27.8. Holy smokes. Or, see here, yeah, that's forecast. And which actually would be an improvement because prior was negative 40. Wow. That would be current conditions with economic sentiment at 86. Also at the top of the hour, this next hour, we're going to have Eurozone Employment. They're looking for minus 2.1%, as well as Eurozone GDP. They're looking for down 0.6. As we come into the States, we'll have import-export prices at 8:30 Eastern, and also Canadian export-import also at the same time. And also at 10 a.m., we'll have JOLTS job openings. We did go in and see the Nasdaq rally into the close. We'd spoken about this key level, this 13,715, and if you see on there, we closed above that on Friday, so that opened the door for us to go higher. And I was saying previously before that would invalidate this whole area down here if anyone was bearish. So we came back to test it early in the session, but it twice defended it, and then we rallied into the closing above the next key level, which was 13,812, which is right here. We added on a little bit further, but we have since dipped back. We're just kind of floundering in this area. Looking at the S&Ps, we did go on and we actually rallied into the Asian session towards this 42.35 area. Now, we had yesterday had rotated back to our bias chart support, which is that first key area 42.14. We held that area, and then we took off and well, maybe not necessarily took off because we ended up closing like the mid 20s, but we took off in Asia to go on and rally towards 42.35. So take a look there. Euro a little bit of mixed back, a little bit quiet. And Bitcoin seems to be finally starting to slide back. We've been looking for a move, at least to start out, into the mid to upper 20s. I say upper, I don't mean mid that high. Initially on the first break, I'm looking for around 27,000. But I think that we can eventually get down to around 24,000. I think it's just under like maybe 24,800. But we are now starting to slip. We've talked about this. Each subsequent high ends up going a little bit lower. We went into that yesterday, just a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. Whereas before we used to be able to go and rally it up. You see here, solid rallies, and each one just a little bit less, and now we're just starting to just drop further off. So looking like we might finally get this pullback in Bitcoin that'll take us, at least initially, I think we'll get down to 27, maybe see a little bounce, but then overall, I think we'll get down to around 24,000. That's, I believe, like 24,700 around there. I know Blake's looking for an even bigger fall, maybe going towards the breakout of 20,000. We'll see, but at least for now, I think that we'll get to 27. A little bit of a bounce, then we'll probably rotate lower, and I think upper 24s. Take a look at crude oil. Crude oil's finally starting to pare back. We finally saw this thing after such a strong move that we've had. We're on the 2-hour chart, and I was going to go on and reference here, and that's why I like to use the profile chart. If you look here, let me pull this out. me pull it from here. We go. So you can see here on the rally back then, we had broken, eventually broke lower from this area here. We can see right there at the 69.72-ish area here. We came in, we actually had a little bit of a gravestone doji and started to pull back. But you can see here that in Asia, when they're trying to rally back, you can see exactly where they ran out of gas here is at the point of control, the previous day's clock. You can see here we opened up here. This is the initial balance range, and the market opened right here at this point of control, and then from there we just continue to fade back. Right now, we'd be looking at resistance right now here at this value area low, which would be 69.10. Right now, when we look here from where the market's traded, the midpoint right now is 68.90. But if they do push further, I'd be looking for some resistance here at 69.10, right there, which is in that lower value area. Let's go on and move this out of the way. And let's take a look with gold. Gold did go on in, we did get here. We finally made it up to our bias chart resistance, 1906. That was, well, at least that's for today, and we've rotated back from there. Let's go on and get started with the analysis. So starting out with the euro. So the euro added on to gains from Friday, challenging the 22 even area on Monday. Resistance remains 22.27, which we had. If we can come up here, this 22.27 area here, with a close above 22.54, would allow the market to extend a new leg higher if we can get that close above 22.54. But in the meantime, it still remains 22.27. We did challenge this key area here, the 122. Kind of faded back a little bit so far this morning. Support will be 21.24. And moving on to cable. Looks like cable's down a little bit, just the same as the euro. So cable closed slightly higher on Monday in a quiet session. Resistance is going to remain 42.06 with a daily close above 42.06, allowing for a new leg higher. That 42.06, if we get that daily close above it, that will still allow it to move beyond this 42.50 or we've seen is 42.41 on the weekly. But a daily close above 42.06 will get us a new leg higher. Support will be 41.01. And relatively quiet session. A little bit lower. On to the Aussie. So the Aussie closed just above 77.50 on Monday, allowing for a challenge of 78 even. Immediate resistance will be 77.96. With support at 77.08. This Aussie continues to remain in a fairly tight range, with the exception of that move last week, which saw us challenge the 76.65, and we came back quite strong. On to the dollar yen. So the dollar yen traded in a tight range on Monday, closing slightly higher. You can see that here. And you know what? That's odd. Because it didn't. That's odd because that's not exactly how it showed up when I was doing the analysis. Resistance will be 957. I might have had it on a half-hour chart. Maybe that threw me off at the time. But anyway, resistance will be 957 with support at 901. And onto the cash dollar index. So the dollar index closed lower on Monday with a follow-through of Friday's action. You can see that. Support on Tuesday will be 89.69, so that remains the same, with resistance at 90.42. Although we've pushed to new lows here, I mean, we've stayed down here. We're not accelerating down here. We'd really have to get a push below that and for its own to its own credit. I will say it's held up relatively well, despite indexes continuing to move higher. With that, let's go and move into Bitcoin. Here's Bitcoin on the daily, but I can give a little bit closer look at what it's trying to do here on the 2-hour chart, which we were referencing a little while ago. Bitcoin continues to drift lower, closing below 34,000. There we go, which we did yesterday. Immediate support remains 32,289. You can see that we still have it. I meant to put 32,389, which, yeah, that is correct. With a potential break, as we discussed earlier, to 24,000. Although I think the first tag would be 27,000. But I think we will get to 24,000. I think 24.8, 24.7, something like that. But I think the first stop would be 24,000. And we talked about this at length yesterday, how this market just can't get a bounce. Not the bounces that we used to get off this. The same thing, each one subsequently lower, and just, let's go to the 2 hour chart. So we used to get these strong bounces off of here, dip back, strong bounce, and also just started running out of gas a little bit lower. And each subsequent bounce was just a little bit lower, a little bit more feeble. And now we just started to rotate lower and lower. We talked about this area yesterday, how we're just kind of like floundering a bit. And so that's opened the door for us to move lower, and certainly did just that. Resistance will be 35,907. And let's move into the S&Ps. So the S&P's rotated on Monday to its initial bias chart support area of 42.14. There was on 42.14. If it got extended lower, we had 42.04, but it reached down to 42.14. You can see how it held that. Okay, held it in Europe, and then we held it, twice in the States in the early session of the U.S. session, and then we started to rotate higher. And then, of course, in the Asian session, we pushed up to this 42.35. So the S&P rotated on Monday to its initial bias chart support of 42.14 before finding bids and closing in the mid 42.20s. Resistance remains 42.38, followed by 42.45. Support will be 42.09. So if we do rotate lower here, I'm looking for a move to break the 42.14 and find bids at 9. But we're holding up pretty well, but we might start to weaken a little bit here, and I think we'll get down here to 9 on the S&Ps. Moving on to the Nasdaq. So the Nasdaq maintained its close above 13,715. We addressed that earlier at the beginning of the session, and we talked about this. This was that range we were in all last week and part of the prior week. This between 13,652 to 13,715. Now we would move above it, but the closes were well within that range, and even for the most part, even the ranges, albeit with a couple exceptions here and there, were pretty much confined within that range. So when we got that move on Friday, I noted in the chat room on Friday, hey, look, big close above 13,715, because at the time I had taken a short late in the session. I said, I mentioned, I said, I wouldn't mind keeping it. And I go, but if it closes above 13,715, that invalidates anyone who's short from any of these other days. And certainly that's exactly what happened. When we came down here, we actually challenged that area in the European session. We got lower, and I think we got into the 680s. I remember I actually picked up along it. I think it was 703. I believe it was 703. Yeah. And but in the States, when we came back down here, boy, we could only come down here around 715, and we hit it, I think, 3 times, and we moved higher. Not only did we move higher, we rallied at the end of the session here to hit 812. I notated in that chat room and say, hey, that's going to be key. Let's see how we react tomorrow. Well, heck, we came on to the close in a rather quiet session to close right there at 13,812, exactly there. And then in Asia, we started to take off. So before rallying into the close, reaching the key level of 13,812, which is this blue line here. We can open it up. You can see the significance. Pull this back. See 13,812. And although we've rallied a little bit higher and we've already had a pretty decent move, we've pared back a little bit, but I tried to look in here. There's I wouldn't say air, but there isn't anything. I guess you could hang on to these these lower bodies, which comes in at 13,859. But that's kind of like, to me, would have been just saying, well, let me see if I can just find a resistance. Um, the real resistance comes in at 13,907. So we could see the same. They may come to the U.S. session and push this further, but 13,907 and a limit fib that I don't really pay much attention to. Some people do. The 88% that would come in at 929. So today we'd be looking into this area if it does. We did run out of, kind of run a little bit out of gas right here at the bottom of these bodies. So I guess there were multiple bottoms. So I guess there's a little bit of weight there, and it ran out 859.75, but not anything you can really hang your hat on. Getting back, so resistance will be 13,907 with support at 13,756. And let's go move into the gold market. So gold added on to gains on Monday, closing at 1898. Resistance on Tuesday will be 1906, which looks like we ran out of gas right at 1906. I was, well, look at that, 1906 and 10 cents. So resistance on Tuesday will be 1906 with support at 1883. Well, that wasn't bad. We've already fallen $12 since then. 1906, 1883. And let's close out with crude oil. So crude took a reprieve from the upper 69 area, finding offers in the 69.75. You can see that coming across here, and then we just put that bar really right above on that close of this bar right there. Resistance will be 69.32, which will be Monday's full session point of control. We talked about that. We can actually pull this back out again. So this is where we're coming up now. I did show you that I looked at that 69.10, but we're looking at resistance. Actually, in the Asian session, that was resistance. You can see here from the prior day's POC point of control here, that comes in at 69.32. But as we were talking at the beginning of the webinar, I would be looking at 69.10, which is the lower value area here. 69.10, I would look for that to be resistance now. Although right now we're at 68.65, so yeah, I like that 69.10. The 69.30 might be, I don't want to say it's a bit of a stretch because that's exactly where we're running out of gas. But from where we're at right now, and the market's already turned negative, you'll probably find maybe some late longs or some people trying to jump on shorts, not willing to wait all the way back to 69.36. So let's go with the lower value area here, which is 69.10. And support will be 68.25, so far 68.50. If we open this up a little bit, we'll see if we see anything. Yeah, the low end of this area here, look at that. That comes in 2 sessions back at 68.32. And a POC there at 68.25. That would take out this low. I like that, them taking that out. So you know what? I like that 68.25. Let's call it right. Yeah, 68.25. I like that. That would clean out the stops here and puts us right there at 68.25. And you got a little bit of a low right there on this range there, would come in at 68.18. And you can see here, that should be some good support there. So I like the POC there at 68.25. I like it. Let's just put that chart back where it is. So there we are, 68.25, 69.10. And as I said, taking a look at news at the top of the hour, we'll have Eurozone Employment as well as Eurozone GDP. And coming into the States, we'll have import-export prices at 8:30 Eastern for U.S. and Canadian. And then we'll have Joe's job openings at 10 a.m. Eastern. So with that said, we'll go and get this posted into the chat room. And thanks for joining us here on the European Crossover webinar. Oh, looks like Amira said platinum. Okay, we're still here. Thank you, Amira. That didn't even show up in the chat until I had to look at the bottom. That's all. I don't know why it was showing up at the bottom. But anyway, okay, let's take a look at platinum palladium. So let's jump into there. Bear with me. Let's get the chart back. Platinum and palladium. So taking a look where we're at, remember we talked about this whole range we'd been sitting in, and now we're starting to push back to the bottom end of this range here. We did get a little bit of a little mini hammer a couple of days back, which would have been Friday. I mean, we're not falling out of the range, but we're stuck below that, and this market needs a close above 11.98. We need, actually it's a little bit higher, 11.99, in order to basically stop the bleeding. That would stop the bleeding and allow this market to try and rotate higher with that upper area around 12.40. But we got to get above 11.99. We're kind of holding, and actually this area right here, very short-term support is going to be right there. See this body right there? Right there coming across, that's 11.52. And we did defend it twice. That'd be your kind of like your cutoff. You get a daily close below 11.52, and that's not good. That really opens the door for them to even push even further. So you probably have some people maybe stepping in buying, saying, okay, I've got a little bit of a hammer. and they'll probably keep their stops fairly tight, thinking, hey, if we break lower, then we're going to push down here into the 1120s. So see if we can hold that, but we need a daily close of 11.99. I'll move it into Palladium. We're faring a little bit better in Palladium, but we're going nowhere fast. We're basically just paddling in the water. You can see here we did, as the market steps back here, we kind of hold this area right here, the 2809, but we've done nothing with it. We're just basically spinning our market's just spinning its tires right now. So nothing right now, and you can see the significance right there. You see that body right there? That's where the market's having a tough time. It actually closed above it and looked like we might do something, and we just slid back. So we need to get above this area of 2862. See right there, 2862 on a daily close. But right now, we just don't seem to have any momentum whatsoever. So with that, we'll call it a day. And thanks for joining us here in the chat room. In the European crossover webinar, we'll get the bias chart posted. Thanks.